Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Today we're making a Gottshall block. It is a basic, simple thing for a beginner to learn new techniques and methods. Let's dive in. Here are the plans for the Gottshall block. I will have these available on my website so you can download a PDF and follow along, but if you want to freeze the computer and copy those all down, you can. I'm going to start with a block that is 3.5 inches wide because it's really simple to find wood that's 3.5 by 3/4, especially if you're in America, that is the standard size. I'm going to cut it to 7 inches long, and then we are going to clean up the ends. The saws never leave a perfect cut, and sometimes you want to clean those up. Now, you can learn to freehand joint to the edge, or you can take it over to a shooting board, which we'll be doing in a minute. Now, the plans call for a block that is 3 inches, and the reason we're starting with something that's 3 rather than 3.5 is it gives you a chance to learn to dimension. Here I'm going to be using a scrub plane, but you could bring in a saw and cut close to the line, and then come in with the plane and clean it up. For the other end, we're going to shoot it and clean it up perfectly 90 degrees. And now we need to go into all of the marking. Now for this, I want to lay out all of the marking ahead of time, and I want to do it all at one time because a lot of these marks have to go off of the end. And because we have a joint on the end, eventually that end is going to disappear. So it's nice to be able to lay everything out ahead of time. Now you can do them one at a time, but just realize that you're probably going to have a few issues with marking at odd angles and odd locations. But as long as you're okay with that, you can do them one at a time. But today, we're going to do them all at one time. Lay them all out and mark them up. Now, one of the big problems is this one where you have a mortise that goes all the way through. So I've got marks on one side and I need to transfer those around to the other side of the board. This skill is incredibly important to learn how to transfer marks from one side of the board around to the other. Another thing in here is we have several curves and rounded shapes. To make those, you need to mark off with a compass, but sometimes the center point for the compass is not in the board and you have to mark off away from it. So I'm actually going to create a line on my bench, and this will become my center line that I will mark off where the compass is. And this allows me to put a fulcrum off the board. We're going to start off with the rabbet, and this is an end grain rabbet, and I could do this with a simple rabbeting plane, but we want to learn skills, and particularly sawing skills. Those are the basic skills for everything. We're going to come in with a sash saw and cut down cross-cut on what is now the side face, and then we're going to come in with the tenon saw and cut down vertically to match the sash saw's line. Now you notice I'll be going back and forth with this. I'll use one saw and then I'll come in from the other saw, and I want to sneak up on it. I don't want to go past the line. I want to be right up on the edge so that I don't have any mismarks going past. And in here you'll see a mistake here in a moment where the tenon saw goes just a hair past right there. Oh well. That's where we're trying to learn. We're trying to practice new things. We're going to be left with a bit in the corner, and you can come in with a chisel and clean that out. Or if you have a shoulder plane, you can clean that out as well. We're going to have an end grain groove, which basically this is a dovetail, or it could be a half lap, and there's a bunch of things that will use this. We're going to use a dovetail saw to cut in on either side of it down to the end. I could come in with a coping saw and remove most of the waste, but I find cutting this off with a chisel is a great way to learn a lot of other skills. We're going to stay away from the end grain line and then chop back to it until we are about halfway down. And then we'll come back into that end grain line and go back down to the halfway point. Then we can flip the board over and do the exact same thing from the other side. Chop in away from the line and then pare into it until this little piece breaks off. And this one, I got a little aggressive and we just went, finally break off. Yeah, you can take your time on that and practice, and then you can finally get tight up to the line. This is going to be a cross grain groove. In this one, we actually want a sash saw or a carcass saw to cut down the sides as opposed to a dovetail saw. But the nice thing about this is the grain makes it very easy for the beginning, so we can chop off a bunch of it with a chisel, but again, stay away from the line. You're going to needing to be careful on this because the grain could be going in an odd direction. Once we get close to the line, we can come in and pare it out from one side and then pare out from the other side rather than going all the way through. I could come in with a router plane and clean it out, but we want to be learning skills here, so we're going to be trying other things. You can come in with a file on all of these joints and clean them up and smooth them out and give yourself a nice crisp corner. For the center mortise, this one can be a bit difficult. When you are chopping with the grain, you want to be careful not to split the whole block. You could very easily split the whole thing out. I want to stay away from the lines again. And just like with the end grain groove, we want to chop in and then pare out. But in this case, we're going to be paring out toward either end. So we'll pair from one side, turn the chisel around, and pair to the other side, and slowly work our way down until we're close to halfway. At halfway, we can then go right into our lines and crisp up this half of it. Then we can flip the board over, and we can do the exact same thing from the other side and go until we play connect the dots. We can shear off all of the fibers, and it is a very, very fun sensation to realize that you can connect all the way through, and you can push this block out, and your lines actually match up. You'll see there's some dross on the inside, and we can come in and clean that out with a chisel, and then smooth out all the edges right down to our line with a nice clean file, giving yourself a beautiful mortise that is ready for a tenon to go into. On here, we're going to be creating a stopped dado. And on this, we can only cut in so far. And I actually want to chisel this whole thing out rather than half sawing it because it's not that big. So we want to deepen our lines and chisel them out. So you're going to chop in and then pare out, and chop in and pare out. Then we could come into the router plane here and clean out tight to the bottom. But to keep nice tight shoulders, you can use a marking knife to come in and sharpen up the bottom and then pare out down to that depth. The router plane makes this really, really easy, and it's a good chance to learn its skills on how to set it a little bit deeper by just using the slop in the setting. On the 45 on the corner, on the one on the plans, I'm actually turning this into a 45 half lap, which will make it a little bit more difficult. We'll teach a few more skills. There's also a rounded corner on this, which is a fun one to do with a chisel because you can just chop away at it. Paul Sellers has an amazing video on this where you just round it over with a chisel and a couple rasps and a file, and you're done. It's really, really easy to come in and hit this and get yourself a really nice, clean, smooth, rounded surface with just a few simple techniques. The next rounded feature is actually a crescent in the side. And for this, we could come in with a turning saw and remove most of the waste and then chisel down, but I find it a good skill to learn to saw down and then chisel out the majority of the waste. We can come in with the chisel, bevel down, and run along this until we get close to one side, and then we come in from the other side. And with the chisel, you can actually get really, really close to your edge. Now, I could come in with a spoke shave and clean this out. With a round bottom spoke shave, it'll be able to be just beautiful. But I want to show how you can just do this with a rasp and file and really detail it out and hit that line right on. It is really not that difficult of a project, and it is a fantastic way to learn all the little steps. Once you do this, you can do any joinery out there. It's just taking the time to learn the process, and it's a lot of fun. So there you have it. This is a really fun project that really has no purpose, and if you mess up on it, oh well, but it's a great way to learn different techniques and methods for cutting joints. And once you can do all of these, you can pretty much do anything out there. I also have plans for this if you want to get them free to download on my website. There's a link to them down below. And the fun thing about this is it's a good chance to actually do something to measurements. So you can measure out exactly what they are in the plans and then come back through and try and see how close you can get in reality. So it's a good chance to experiment and play around with it. This took me about an hour or so to make. For a beginner, it's going to take significantly longer, and I'm probably going to be doing a class here soon where I'm actually going to be talking through working this, and I'll have it online so you can join with that as well as in person. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. I'll have information about that coming out, usually announced in the lives every Tuesday. So I hope you like this. If you do, then let me know about it. If you've made one of these before, let me know that down below. I would love to hear what you do. Is there something you do that's a little bit different for learning and trying new things out? That means a lot. Anytime you put a comment down there, thank you. That actually helps out the channel. Commenting is a really simple way that you can help us get in front of more people, even if it's just comment down below. There's a whole group of people who like to put that one down there. Thank you. That means a lot. As well as hitting the like, share, subscribe, and all of that. That means more than I can say. Now, there's a bunch of names over here. Those are all of the fantastic, wonderful, benevolent, and gorgeous people over on Patreon. Because without patrons, we wouldn't be here. We are sponsored by you. The viewers are the ones who make this happen. We are not sponsored by brands and names. We get to say what we want to say because you are here to make that happen. So thank you for that. If you'd like to find out more, you know where the links are down below. I think that'll do it for now. Until next time, have a wonderful day. You have no purpose, other than you kind of look like a fishy. Beep, 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 beep.